StraightallDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, Work on Your Game University. We're going to try a new format here. We got the whiteboard next to the desk, and we're going to talk about the different levels of speed. I'm going to explain to you how each one of these levels works, why they work, what they mean, and the pros and cons of each, because each has some positives and each have some possible drawbacks depending on how you choose to look at them. So the first thing before we even get into this is understanding the value of speed. The value of speed is in understanding the basic truth that all human beings eventually expire. We all eventually run out of time, which means we need to get the most out of our time that we possibly can while we are all still here and we still have the option of doing something with our time. Therefore, the faster we can achieve our goals, the more time we buy. So, for example, if you have all of these things that you want to get done in your life, let's say I have all these things I want to get done through the rest of my life, the faster I'm able to get each one done, the more time I have to get to the next one. And maybe if I move really fast and I was to get through all of these, some people call this the bucket list. I got all these things I want to do before I die. If you were able to get all of them done and you're still alive, well, guess what? Now you can add more things to your bucket list. And what you essentially do is you get to live more life in your life. But if you move slowly, then you might not even get all of them done. Let's say you only get a couple of them done. You still have a whole bunch still left on your list. When you pass away or you proverbially kick the bucket, you didn't get to live all your life because you were moving too slow. So the faster we're able to achieve things, the more life we get to live, and we get to expand our life and extend our lives theoretically because we get more time to do more things. That's why speed matters so much. The good thing about this, once you come to accept and understand this emotionally, is that there are only 3 different ways to increase your speed in life and to get more life out of your life. I'm going to tell you what those 3 things are. I'm going to tell you what they look like, give you some examples. And again, I'm going to tell you the pluses and the minuses of each one because everything in life comes with a trade-off. There are no perfect scenarios. Ready for this? Good. Number 1 is the first level is called tactical speed. Tactical speed simply means taking what you are already doing and just do more of it and just figure out a way to do it faster, way to do it harder, or in some ways theoretically do it better. That's what tactical speed is. So for example, if every day for you to get ready and get dressed, you brush your teeth, you wash your face, maybe put some makeup on, shave, do your hair, brush your hair, whatever it is that you do, if that whole getting ready process takes you 25 minutes, tactical speed would be, how can I do this whole process in 20 minutes? Or how can I do it in 15 minutes? The good thing about tactical speed is that anybody can do this because all tactical speed means is do the exact same things you've always been doing. Just consciously and intentionally think about how can I do them a little bit faster, a little bit harder, a little bit better. You're not really making that much of a change except you're simply pressing on the gas pedal a little bit harder. So if you're driving your car, for example, the other day I was driving and there was a yellow, I was at a green light. It was a green light I was about to roll through, but the light turned yellow. And a car that was a little bit ahead of me started to slow down for the yellow light, but I was already moving so fast I didn't want to slow down. So what I do, I just pressed on the gas pedal harder, sped up a little bit, and made it through the yellow light before it turned red. That's tactical speed. You're just increasing the speed of doing the exact same thing you're already doing. The good thing about it is that anybody can do this. It takes no specialized knowledge. It doesn't really take much intellect. All you got to do is the same stuff. Just consciously think about how can I do it harder and faster, and boom, there you go. The challenge of tactical speed is that it often is not enough to make a real change in your life. And this is where most people mess up, is that they only focus on tactical speed. Let me just keep doing the same thing I'm already doing, and let me just do it harder. Let me do it faster. Let me quote unquote do it better, but they're not really better because you're just doing the same stuff over and over again. Most people live their entire lives at this level, at the tactical level. Let me just do more of the same thing. So good news is there's another level that you can get to. Let's move on to level 2, which is strategic speed. Strategy simply means a plan of action, a game plan. So strategic speed means you still have the same goal of the same thing you want to do. If we were to take a bigger picture idea, let's just say something like making money. If a person has a job, a 9-to-5 job, and is paying you $70,000 a year, but you want to make $500,000 a year, well, one thing you could do is just figure out how can I put more hours in at work? How can I get a little bit of a raise? How can I do some overtime and get time and a half? But even doing the math on that, you realize that tactically there's a limit to that. And there's only so far you can go. You're probably not going to get from 70K to 500K at the same job, no matter how many hours you work, because there are not enough hours in a day multiplied by how much you get paid in order for you to make that level of money, which means you must go to a different level of speed, which is strategic speed. So you just take a different approach, but you're still trying to hit the same goal. So an example of strategic speed, to give you a different example here, let's say I'm an athlete and I want to get really good at a sport like basketball or boxing or swimming. Tactical speed would be I'm already going to the gym and working out already on my sport. I'll just go to the gym and stay. Instead of doing 30-minute workouts, I'll do 60-minute workouts. Instead of working out 3 times a day, I mean 3 times a week, I work out 5 times a week. All right. Instead of going once a day, I'll go twice a day. So it's just doing more of the same things that you're already doing. The problem is, again, the limit of tactical speed is that you're limited by what you already know and what you already know how to do, which is usually not enough for you to get to your outcome. So strategic speed is about taking a different approach. So let's say I'm that same athlete trying to get good at boxing. Instead of me just going to the gym and hitting the punching bag and shadow boxing and jumping rope on my own, how about I hire a trainer who actually knows the boxing game a lot better than me, and they start training me on how to box instead of me trying to train myself. I can keep the exact same schedule, go to the gym the exact same amount of time, exact same length of workouts. Only thing that changed is that I have a new strategy and a new approach, which came from someone outside of myself. So one of the pros of strategic speed is that you get a new approach, but using your same skill set that you showed up with, you can still get really big results just because your approach changed. Now, the challenge with strategic speed is that it often requires you to have the humility to accept that your old way of doing things was insufficient, not enough, and you need to reach outside of yourself to get the knowledge or the information or the insight or the approach that will allow you to get to the outcome that you want. The biggest challenge with strategic speed is people's ego. The human ego is what gets in the way of strategic speed, because in order for you to move strategically fast, you have to accept that your process, whatever you came up with that you were doing on the tactical level, was not enough. Accept that is not enough and move to this level right here. Now, you might think, some of you listening to this, you might think, well, Dre, that's pretty easy. If I see my thing isn't working, I'll be very open hearing what somebody else has to say about how to make this thing work. But if you look around in life and you have enough life experience like I do, talking to enough people, you'll find that this is actually a very big hurdle for a lot of humans to get over, because a lot of humans are too emotionally and egotistically connected to their own ideas and their own approaches. So even if it's obvious that their approach is not working, it is very difficult for them to come to accept it themselves and then say, okay, I need some help outside of myself, because as soon as they see what the help may be and how the new approach may work, they immediately start comparing it to what they've already believed, which is supported by their ego, and they're much likely to defer to their ego than they are to say, okay, I'm going to do something different. Strategic speed requires a high level of humility, and many human beings, despite the fact that they are nowhere near the goals that they say they have, still have a whole lot of arrogance and a whole lot of ego about themselves and their own ideas. And this is the reason why many people cannot change strategy, not because they don't know how, not because they don't understand, but because their ego is blocking them from doing it. So this is strategic speed. Again, the pro, new approach, big results. The con, it requires humility to accept that your way simply does not work. And a lot of people do not have that humility. This tends to be, I would say it leans a little bit more male than female, but women have this exact same problem. And the biggest issue is that we are so connected to our habits that it's very hard to break. Strategic speed requires a breaking of habits. Moving on, tactical speed does not. It's the same habit, just do more of the same thing. Strategic speed, you got to change your habits. Good news is there's a whole other level of speed, and this is the one that produces the fastest outcomes and the biggest outcomes. So this is the best level of speed. If you can get there, this is called wholesale speed. What does wholesale speed mean? Wholesale speed means you are making an overall change in the goal and maybe even the vision of what you're trying to achieve. So let's go back to that idea of somebody who's trying to make more money. So they're making 70K a year at their job. Tactical speed, they say, let me just press harder on the gas. Maybe you'll get up to 80K or 90K a year, but there's no way you're going to get to that $500,000 goal. Strategic speed is, okay, maybe I need to figure out a way I can get a promotion at work. So instead of being on a base pay of 70K, my base pay goes up to 200K. Now I'm a little bit closer to the goal. That's a strategic change. Now, again, the challenge is the humility to accept that maybe you're not good enough to get that 200K job, and you're going to have to do some extra training or learn some extra skills in order to get it. Wholesale speed is, okay, how about I stop working at this job, period, completely. I quit the job. I become a consultant teaching businesses independently what I already know, and I just set my price high from the very beginning. I set my price at $50,000 a contract. So now I only got to get 10 clients over the course of a year, and boom, there's my $500,000. That's a wholesale change. So you're still trying to make the money, but you're changing the entire approach of how you're going about it. Instead of trying to do it through a job, let me do it through a business. Instead of trying to do it through salary, let me do it through revenue that I get from my business. That's wholesale change. You're basically throwing out everything that you were doing before and taking a completely different approach. I'll give you another example. Let's say that athlete who decides they want to be a really good athlete, and I'll use myself as an example here. I used to play, before I got into basketball, which was the sport that I played professionally, I played a little bit of baseball. A tactical approach to getting better at baseball would be, let me just go practice baseball by myself more often outside of team practice. Let me just practice by myself more. This didn't work because I wasn't really that gifted at baseball. A strategic approach I could have taken, but I never got around to taking, was let me go get a coach or hire a coach who can train me on getting better at baseball. I probably would have gotten significantly better, maybe marginally better, but I significantly would have improved had I been working with a trainer who knew the game better than I knew it. I don't think, though, I had the potential to be really, really great at baseball, which is why I instead chose a wholesale change. The wholesale change was switching my athletic ambition from doing it through the vehicle of baseball to now doing it through the vehicle of basketball. The goal was still the same. I still want to achieve the goal of being a great athlete, but instead of doing it through baseball, now I'm going to do it through basketball. That's a wholesale change. So the idea, the vision may still be there, but you're just finding a completely different approach to how to get there. And when I changed wholesale from baseball to basketball, all of a sudden things started working. It's the same thing I gave you the example there. A person could be trying to make all that money through your employment, but what if you quit your job and become an entrepreneur? You have much more higher ceiling how much money you can make when you step into the entrepreneurial space than if you were to remain an employee. So that's what wholesale change is. The pro of wholesale change is that you get a massive change in potential, even though your abilities have not changed. All that changed is your approach and your way of thinking about the issue. The challenge of wholesale change, and this is the reason why many people never make wholesale changes, is because you have to emotionally accept that there is going to be a massive shift. And this is the hardest adjustment for most human beings to make, is to make a massive shift in life. This is the reason why I've continually asserted, and I will continue to assert, any of you who has been graduated from high school for 10 years or more, don't worry about signing up for, you don't have to get on Facebook and go look for your classmates. You don't have to go to your 10 or 20-year high school reunion. You don't have to do anything to find out what happened to your classmates. I'll tell you what happened to them. They're the same people they were the last time that you saw them. The only difference is they got older, fatter, and uglier. Everything else about them is still exactly the same. Fundamentally, human beings do not change. I'm saying that as a general rule. Of course, there are people out there who grow and get better and develop. That's not most people. Maybe 2% of people really grow, develop, and get better because they're ambitious and conscious about growth. Most people do not grow because growth requires some wholesale changes. Most people don't make wholesale changes because they require emotional acceptance of a massive shift in your identity and a massive shift. When you change your identity, you change your actions, you change your outcomes. Most people want to change in outcomes, but they're unwilling to undergo the shift in identity that is required for a massive shift in outcomes to occur. This is the reason why most people never make wholesale change, which is the reason why, deductively, most people never change. So again, if you're 35 and you haven't seen your high school classmates in almost 20 years, you don't have to go to the reunion if you don't want to. And if you go, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. You're going to see the same people. They just got a little bit older. They gained a bunch of weight, and they're uglier than they were last time that you saw them. That's what changes with most human beings. That's what wholesale change. This is the opposite of wholesale change. Wholesale change, again, that emotional acceptance of a massive shift. Many of you right now, you have the potential to achieve something great in your life. The problem is you cannot do it by tactically doing more of what you're already doing. Maybe even a strategic approach to what you're doing is not going to be sufficient. You need a wholesale change. The vision can still be there, but the approach may have to change. You got to throw a whole lot of things out and bring a whole lot of new things in. And because most people cannot mentally and emotionally wrap their minds around that, this is the reason why most people stay stuck. Good news is I just gave you the formula for fixing it. It requires a wholesale change. And one more thing about a wholesale change is that it often comes from an insight or a perspective that is outside of your own. Because if your own ideas could come up with something that was a wholesale change, you would have already made the wholesale change. Usually the changes most human beings default to is tactical, maybe even sometimes strategic. If you're a high level thinker, most people don't come up with these by themselves. But the good news is where you are right now on the internet and through other human beings, you can get access to a whole lot of wholesale ideas that are wholesale relative to you. It's not like people are just walking around telling you to make changes. It's just that when you're walking around and living how you live and thinking how you think, you may see someone who is doing something that compared to you is a wholesale difference. And if you look at it and pay attention and ask the right questions, you may ask yourself, what if I start doing things that way? What if I started using that approach instead of using the approach that I'm using now? So everything relatively speaking, could be a wholesale change for you if you're just observant of what's happening around you. The best place to start is to look around at other people who are doing things that are maybe in the lane that you want to be in, but they seem to be getting completely different results than what you're getting. Look at what they're doing and asking yourself, what kind of wholesale change would I need to undergo to maybe do things with their approach as opposed to my approach, because you're looking for a different outcome. And then what you do is test, try it out, see what kind of results you get, and you go from there. You want to learn more about how to do things like this, how to think things out analytically. I do this naturally. It's my natural style of communication, my natural style of speaking, teaching, and training and helping people implement. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you can have me as your personal coach. We can get to work on things like this, increasing the speed and velocity of your outcomes in your life as soon as possible. Because again, the whole point is you want to live more life while you still have life to live. Work on your game. Dre, all